So for the next part, we're going to do the Photoshop tutorial. Everything that you will need will be in the description, so check that out. All right, so when you open Photoshop for the first time, you'll see the New Document tab. You can just name it whatever, and I like to go to the pixels, 5000 by 4000, resolution 300, 8-bit, and the sRGB color profile. All right, so we're going to take the render that we made in the part 1 and just drag and drop. All right, so I'm going to use this for the background here and drag it below NeoCity so it's in the background. I'm going to press Ctrl T to transform and kind of put it into place how I'd like it. All right, so I'm going to shift click and then Ctrl G to group that, and right click and change that to a yellow group. So all this stuff is cool, but for this image, I'm going to press Ctrl T to scale this up just like this. Now I'm just going to mess with this background until I find a good spot that I like. The blacks aren't matching, so I'm going to press Levels Adjustment Layer down here. I'll clip that to the layer below. The values I'm going to use on this one will be 59 here, and then 155, 255. All right, so next I'm going to add a curves adjustment layer because the background is too blown out. I'm going to go over here and just turn down the exposure on the right side. Now I'm going to add a color balance adjustment layer, and I'm going to kind of make the sky more blue. All right, so I'm going to go about -17 and +17 on this one. All right, so I'm going to go above the render and put a new color balance adjustment layer. I'll go to the shadows on this one and go down for cyans and plus blue as well. All right, so now I'm going to add some neon signs to the scene, drag and drop, and we're looking for neon signs with a black background so we can put it into screen blending mode and it'll get rid of all the black areas. All right, so for this, I'm just going to go Control Command L and bring down the levels till I can't really see that outline. I'm going to mask this and just kind of mask away with a soft brush, painting with black to mask away all this extra stuff that I don't want. All right, now I'm going to press Control or Command T to transform this and just kind of put this into place a little bit. On this, the atmosphere is on the building, so I'm going to reduce the opacity on this one just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to press a new layer. I'm going to do it twice. Shift click both these and press Control or Command G to make a new group within this group. I'm going to name this Bloom. Shift click both layers, go to screen blending mode. All right, I'm going to press Control or Command J to just kind of duplicate that a couple times. And now we can go in here, press Control or Command and select a color and just make bloom effects. We're going to do a different layer for each one so we can reduce it for each one because it's going to be a different value. All right, cool. So now that we have all that done, I'm going to press Control or Command Alt or Option plus Shift plus E to compile everything to a new layer. Right click, convert to Smart Object. All right, so we're going to go Filter, Blur, Gallery, and Tilt Shift. And we're going to bring this middle part down below because this middle part is sharp and the rest is blurry. All right, so we want the foreground to be sharp and the background to be blurry. So we're going to have it fade off really quickly because there's a lot of depth right here. I'm going to do this by 25 pixels, and now we have some depth of field going on in the image. All right, now we're going to cut out the subject. So I use pen tool every time pretty much. And I'm just going to go around the subject all around. So I'll right click, make a selection, and I'm going to do this I'll do it by 1 pixel, and then press the mask button to cut out the subject. Okay, so I'm going to press Control or Command J to duplicate that and hide this layer. Right click and convert to smart object. So now we have just the subject in the layer, and now I can kind of scale him into the composition correctly and the way I want it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a color balance adjustment layer, and I'm going to make sure that that is clipped to the subject. All right, I'm going to go down in the cyan, and I'm going to go up in the blues. I'll press Controller Command and click the thumbnail so it selects the subject. So above that, I will make a new layer. Make sure that black is on the background and press Controller Command and backspace to make a black layer on the subject. All right, so I'm going to right click, convert to smart object. I'm going to duplicate this just in case, hide the bottom one, and I'll double click this. So in here, I'm going to do layer mask hides effects, and then where I'm going to do an inner shadow. All right, blend mode, I'm going to do screen. Now I can select color that I want. I kind of want a little bit of like an orange saturated bright color, and the angle is going to be this direction. I'm just going to kind of play with this and try to get a good looking rim light going here. All right, so I'm going to go screen blending mode. So now we have a rim light, so we can play around with this and make it look a little bit better. So I'm going to press mask and then Control Command I to invert it to black. That way I can go in here and paint with white where I want this rim light to be. So we got like a little light going on. I really want to try to match this background color. All right, cool. So now I can like just select this background color here. So I'm going to clip this new layer to the subject, and with this color selected, I'm going to use a green blending mode and kind of just do a bit of a little bit of a bleed onto them. So I can see the difference in the colors now. So I'm going to go back to the inner shadow and kind of get that color. It's almost like magenta a little bit. All right, so I'm going to reduce the opacity on this side as well. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a new layer, clip it to the subject, and I'm going to take this bright color in the sky and with a low flow, like 14 is fine. Just going to kind of paint on the subject, literally just paint on him to make him blend with the background a little bit better. I'm going to make sure this is below the light so it doesn't mess with the lighting. I'm going to do it quite a bit here and just reduce the opacity until I feel like that he blends into the background a little bit better. So that did like kind of mess with the contrast of the subject, which is making it look a little funny to me because the blacks in here are a little bit more black. So what I want to do is add a curves adjustment layer. Just kind of mess with the contrast a little bit here. I want to do it too crazy. I don't want to mess up the blacks, but I gotta make him look realistic. All right, so I'm noticing like in the render and the subject, the blacks are a little bit off because this is really dark black, and his pants and the shadows are not as dark as that. I'm going to go back to this layer. I'm going to use a curves adjustment layer, clip it, and just kind of make those blacks gray. And I want this mid to be normal. So that kind of makes it a lot more consistent. I'm going to go ahead and delete that top layer because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to look to kind of put in a little bit of extra Cyberpunk stuff. I'm going to Control Command C, Controller Command V, copy paste that I. Okay. I'm going to right click, convert to smart object, and right click, flip horizontal. So I'm going to do a mask and just kind of go in here, and with a really hard brush, I'm going to use a black brush to just kind of paint out what I don't want. I'm going to just mask out where his eyelid is. All right, so obviously it's not color graded, so I'm going to go to color balance adjustment layer, just make it like super blue. Make sure to clip it to just this, and I'm going to actually come back to that because I can't really see very well. I'm going to use a curves adjustment layer, clip that on top of everything and just darken it till it matches his face. Okay, so the blacks are too black here. Gonna make those gray. So I'm gonna use a new curves adjustment layer on top of that and brighten it. Super bright. And Control Command I to invert that. I'm gonna use my brush tool, make sure it's super soft and on a high flow, just kind of the white brush reveal that eye right there. I'm gonna group this by pressing Control and Command G and just name it I. All right, I'm actually gonna put the I in the subject layer. So on the subject, I'm going to clip it and just gonna kind of try to see what I can do here. Use just black for now. Might just put a motherboard in there. Get this in here. I want to clip this only to the black layer. So I'm going to unclip the black layer, clip this to the black layer. I'm going to press Controller Command and the subject thumbnail. Then I'll press Controller Command plus Shift plus I, invert that, go to the black layer of the face, and I'm going to press Mask. All right, I did that wrong, so I'm going to press Controller Command I to invert that, and now it's masked. All right, so I'm going to go to the motherboard and press Controller Command T to make this smaller. Okay, so I'm going to press this button here. I'm going to warp it. Now I'll go back to the black layer and mess with this mask just a little bit to where it's not just cutting it off here. All right, so now I just need to color grade it. So color balance, clip that down, make it super blue, consistent with the rest of the image, and add a curves adjustment layer, clip that, and make it really dark. All right, gotta match blacks. Just trying to make the blacks look exactly the same. I need to make a shadow below this layer, so I'm gonna make a new layer, and with a black brush that's very soft, gonna paint black right below it to make it look like there's a shadow. Do it like that. Then I'm gonna turn that to darken. All right. Then I'm gonna reduce the opacity just a little bit. All right. So on the mask here, I'm going to add a new curves adjustment layer. I'm gonna clip it to the mask and a little bit darker. And then with a black brush, I'm gonna make it as soft as I can. I'll kind of paint a little bit lighter around here. It has a lot more depth to it. Then I will add a new curves adjustment layer and go up in the midtones, make sure it's clipped, and Control Command I to invert that and just kind of paint where light should be. I'm going to add a new layer and I'm going to select a dark color from the subject, kind of paint it on this. That way it matches the subject a lot better. So I'm going to just change this hue. So I'm going to right click, convert to smart object. I'm going to press Control U, and on that layer I can control the hue a little bit. So I'm going to make it a little bit more red. First I'm going to just saturate it really hard and make sure that it's the right color. I think this is much closer. Or below the mask, I'm going to make a new layer. And this time I'm just going to paint the neck. I'm going to use a pen tool and select the neck. I'll right click and make selection. I'll do it by 0.5 pixels. And with a new layer selected, I'll press Control Command and then backspace to make it completely black. Control Command D to deselect. All right, now we got a selection of the neck area. Make a new layer, clip that to the neck. I'm going to go down here and just select this color and paint the neck that color. So now the blacks match 100%. It looks wrong because there's supposed to be a light here. I'm going to do a curves adjustment layer and clip that to that layer. I'll go up on the highlights and Control Command I to invert the mask, and with white I'll just paint and go back and just kind of try to make it realistic. All right, so it's like really flat. I'm going to reduce the opacity till you can kind of see his skin. All right, so behind the subject, I'm going to just use a soft brush and separate the subject like that. I'm going to put this into screen blending mode. Then I'm going to go to hue and saturation adjustment layer, clip that to that, and press colorize, reduce lightness, increase saturation. And now I can kind of separate the subject a bit. I'll reduce the opacity by quite a bit. Use like a purple. So I'm going to put this lightning asset in here and put that into screen blending mode. I'm going to get a little bit of a lightning going. Then I'm going to go to filter, blur gallery, field blur. I'm going to do that by 25 pixels because that's what the background is blurred at. All right, I'm going to put a mask on it, and I'm just going to mask out like a little bit there, like make it go behind this. So we got some rain. All right, yeah, just put that in screen blending mode. So I'm going to do Control Command L and just reduce that until I get like something a little bit better. Okay. Inside the subject, I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to name it rain. So I'm just going to use like a white and start trying to make raindrops. Okay. Reduce opacity on this. All right, cool. So now that we have everything in this scene, I'm going to press Control Command Alt Option plus Shift plus E to compile everything into a new layer. Right click, convert to Smart Object. I'm going to filter, camera raw filter. All right. So I'm going to reduce the contrast right away. Increase vibrance a bit, just a little bit. And effects, I always vignette, do that a little bit. On the curve, I'm going to go up in the blacks, go down here. Increase the exposure. Try not to blow out the lighting. I'm going to go up in the shadows and continue to go down in the blacks a little bit. Not too much. Calibration might go down in the blues. Okay. So that's pretty good for just like bringing the blacks together really well. It really helped out to bring the image together a lot better. Do a little bit of global color grading. So I'm just going to use a color balance adjustment layer. And in the shadows, I'm going to go up in the blues and in the cyan as well. I'm going to double click the layer. And I'm going to press Alt or Option to take it out of the highlights. All right, I'm going to do that again with a color balance adjustment layer. I'm going to go in the highlights and up in the yellows and in the reds as well. A little bit in the magenta. Okay, double click the layer. Take it out of the shadows with Alt or Option by separating these to feather it. All right, so I'm going to use the color blending mode. So it won't affect how bright the lights are. I'm also going to go into color on the shadows as well. All right, so on top of that, I'm going to go in here, select this red color, and with a very soft brush, I'm going to put that into the screen blending mode, and I'm going to reduce the opacity a little bit. What I'm going to do is press Control Command Alt or Option plus Shift plus E to get a new layer at the very top. Right click, convert to Smart Object. I'm going to go filter, other, high pass. And I'll just do 2. I think 2 is fine. I'm going to go to linear light here, and I'm going to press Alt or Option and then the mask. So it's going to do an inverted mask. So it's completely hidden. So with the white brush, very soft, I'm just going to do a sharpen only on the face. So I'm going to just paint here on the face, be good. And with a linear light, it's very, very strong. So I'm going to reduce the opacity to where I think that's at a good level. All right. So the last thing to do is press Alt or Option plus the new layer tab and go down to soft light, fill with 50% gray. It's okay. Right click, convert to Smart Object, go filter, noise, add noise. The amount I'm going to do is 20 on uniform. Now we have a nice consistent image. All right, guys, I hope that you found that helpful. If you have any questions, please leave me a question in the comment section. That's all I have for you guys. Have a good one.